recording to kick in. There it is right there. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for coming. I see all sorts of different faces out there today and names. We have veteran St. Anne's families. We have brand new St. Anne's families who have only been with us for a short period of time. A lot of teachers that are out there, teacher parents, but also just teachers. We have a few administrators and staff that are here to support us, but also to be here. If you'll go to the next slide, please. My friend, Ms. Valerie White, who is our enrollment manager, is helping me with the presentation today. She's going to be moving the slides along for me. Thank you. It's so we also have, if Barry Davis isn't on quite yet, he has lots of things that he's taking care of, but he's going to join us here fairly quickly.
He's here.
Ah, there he is. See, this is how this works, everyone. I don't watch. After I start going, I'm not really watching. I'm just thinking about the message that I want to give. So thank you for piping up. That's a great example of if somebody has something, I would encourage you to use the chat box to ask your questions. But let me finish with the introductions. Matt Getting is also here in the conference room and he's our associate head of school. And then you'll see Val White is there too, and she's helping us out. Amy Shepard's also here. You'll see her, she's online, logging in from home. She'll have a chance to come on again in a second, but she was just waving. She's our director of DEI, our librarian, and she's also going to be our distance learning, one of our coordinators. Then Renee Shadowan is going to be helping us with moderating questions today, and she works right alongside me. We work shoulder to shoulder this year with the education program. So thanks for everybody being here, and I hope that we can answer some of your questions even before you get a chance to answer them. And then also in the chat, you can place questions, and then we'll also have a time for question and answers at the end. So without further ado, I think we will get started. So there's going to be 3 pieces to this before the question and answer. We're going to look at community norms and safety first. We'll have a bit of a brief discussion about distance learning, outdoor learning, and on-campus learning. We'll talk a little bit about arrival dismissal, and then things that are related with all 3 of those bullets will come up while we're on those slides, and then we'll have a Q&A. So, all right, next slide, please. All right, and I'm still admitting people using my touch screen, so if I look like I'm doing something strange here, that's what it is. Okay, all right. All of us enjoy St. Anne's for many, many different reasons, but there's a lot of overlap in our community and the way we interact with each other, the way that we treat each other, our expectations of each other, that's as adults and as students, is something that either drew us to St. Anne's and has kept us at St. Anne's, or something new that you want to be part of. And so in this time of COVID, I would say there are some things that are similar to other years, but there are lots of things that are exactly the same. And I'll try to point those things out. Safety first is something that is exactly the same, except for that we're having to do it just a little bit differently with maybe a little bit more focus on it. But the safety of our kids, that's both their physical safety, their emotional safety, their psychological safety. Everything about that has been something that's built into St. Anne's. I've been here, this is my 5th year, and I have to say it's one of the major things that drew me to St. Anne's. So the first bullet there you're going to see says quarantine and limit exposure. We're not expecting folks to quarantine before school starts, but I think it is relevant in that it's relevant to limiting exposure our kids to extra transmission of the virus that we don't need to, and germs in general. We want to try to make sure that our community is as safe as it possibly can be. You know, each one of us has our own kind of opinion or feeling about how we maybe as a family, as a city, as a state, as a country is dealing with COVID-19. But one thing I will say about St. Anne's Episcopal School is that our thinking about being safe is that we want to be as safe as possible. So I would ask you to think about that as you help guide and your student, your children, and your friends for that matter, about how you're going to limit exposure so that when we come back to school, we can do it in the safest way possible. Things that you might have done in the past might be things that you want to wait until there's a different time or a safer time to do it. If you've had parties or sleepovers in the past, those would be things that I would say you might consider doing those at a different time, just so that we can make sure that we're as safe as we possibly are coming back. And we want to come back to school and stay at school. And that relies on everyone in the community being part of the collective responsibility that we have to each other, to our own families, and to each other. So I put that first, not because I'm asking us to quarantine, but it gives us something to think about as far as being a community member and being part of that collective responsibility that we as a school community have. Every family, some of these things are things that you've already seen in the reopening plan, but I do think I think that it's important that we still hit on them, even if it's briefly. We will have every family and every teacher and if we have a substitute that's coming in, anyone who's going to spend time with our kids is going to do a pre-screening at home that includes taking your temperature and indicating some symptoms that you haven't had. That the information about that app, that'll be an app that we all have. That information will be coming out fairly soon. And that's an opportunity, that's a layer of safety that St. Anne's is building in. There might be, as last Saturday, our Dr. Priya Patel, one of our consulting physicians, said that like some businesses have gone away from that, but as a school community, that is a layer of security and a layer of safety that we can add. And so we are going to do that. So that's something you'll do before. We know that there's like the triumvirate of 3 things that really work well with fighting against spread of the virus, and that would be mask wearing, hand hygiene, and physical distancing. Those 3 things will take a front seat here at St. Anne's. So this is one of the things in Safety First that we're adding this year. Obviously, we've always practiced hand hygiene, but mask wearing and physical distancing are 2 things that are new to us. They're not new to us as people in our community, but they're new to our school in that we'll be doing them in community. Our teachers will take the time to help your students and your children be part of conversations about what it means to be a good community member and what that looks like at St. Anne's this year. And that will be done in age-appropriate ways and developmentally appropriate ways. And it will also be built into the things that we always do. A good example about mask wearing will be about reading people's facial expressions and looking to see what do facial expressions tell us. That's something we talk about all the way from preschool all the way through grade 8. So we'll just be building in a little bit more of that. Just as a reminder, your child will need to have a mask label with their name, hopefully. Actually, everything that comes to school, please label with their names. And they'll have a mask that they wear, and they'll have an extra mask that they'll carry in a small welcome backpack that we're going to have for them here at the beginning of the school year. It'll be important for them to have that extra mask. Of course, if they didn't have one, we'll provide one, but then we'll let you know what the needs are. One note about masks, I've seen some really cool masks out there. Super interesting. People are using their creativity to make masks be something that's fun to wear and isn't mundane and boring. I just have a request, and you need to know that I asked this of our middle school friends yesterday, that we think about who might be scared by masks. I've seen masks that have clown faces on them, which might seem okay to some people, but it can be scary to some of our younger friends and maybe even some of our older friends. So I would ask that those kinds of masks, maybe those would be at home or on the weekend kind of masks. And the ones that come to school would be a little bit more, friendly for everyone of all ages. So hand hygiene is on our list. We'll be washing hands. We'll be hand sanitizer will be in many, many different places. We'll have hand washing stations outside also, near our outside learning spaces. And, it is one of the top 3 things that we can do. So we will do a lot of it. There will be time built in. Before we use math manipulatives, after we use math manipulatives, before recess, playing outside, after recess, we'll be doing a lot of hand hygiene. The same thing when they come in the morning, before they come in the building. Physical distancing, of course, we're going to try to maintain 6 feet of distance when we're inside and outside. Inside, we have some other layers of safety built in. We have some clear dividers that will be between kids. We have teachers who have our teachers have face shields and a few other things there that'll keep us safe. I wanted you to know, this is a reinforcement of what's already been said. Our 2 nurses will be on campus at the beginning of school. They will play lots of roles here on campus in keeping us safe, and already have been. You will also see them out. The last thing we'll talk about today is arrival and dismissal, and they'll play a part in that, because we'll be taking kids' temperatures before they get out of the car. And if we were to have an elevated temperature, we'll be doing a second check with them. But they'll be on campus, both of them, at the beginning of the school year. And the last bullet there is about emergency procedures inside and outside. I want you to know that St. Anne's has established, any school establishes emergency procedures and practices them on a regular schedule. We have those already in place for many things, actually for everything, even for outdoor learning. We have tornadoes and tornado drills, fire drills, earthquake drills, nuclear drills. That was a new one for me. I've never been in a nuclear drill till I moved here. Active shooter drills inside the building, active shooters drills outside the building. So I just wanted to emphasize, we'll be doing some extra practice. We have it built in to our in-service schedule next week. And so along with the walkie-talkies that we have, and we'll have practice for those also, I just wanted to emphasize that we have emergency procedures for inside and out. So thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. All right. A couple of things here. There looks like there's quite a bit on this slide. The third bullet that I'll get to, I have some slides to be able to show you some information. But first, a couple things. Last Saturday at the virtual town hall for the all school virtual town hall, Mr. Davis announced that we would be having a distance learning. There's a distance learning opportunity for students. We have families who are uncomfortable for a myriad of reasons for their children to be on campus. This is not something that we just decided on Saturday. It's something that we have been in discussion about really for the entire summer, just trying to figure out how that would work with all the things that we don't know that are going to be starting, and that ranges from, where our kids are, how the summer is that they spent, what the springtime effect had on them, how excited they're going to be back to be together in school, and they really are going to be together based, different from what's been happening, but it's still together in a different way. It took us a while to establish how that would work. The contact person for that is Amy Shepard. She'll be coordinating that along with a few other folks, and some additional personal resources that will be helpful to that. So she is the person that you will contact. Amy, I don't know if you want to pop on, just say hello so people can hear.
Yep. Hi, Amy Shepard. I'm going to serve as the liaison between our online students and our families learning from home. If you would like to learn the details of this program, like before we do a coffee chat on it next week, please feel free to email me at ashepard@stanschool.org. You might want to check the spelling on the website to make sure that you're spelling it correctly. But I am happy to have a telephone conversation and just fill you in with the plan and where we are in the process and what that would look like for your children during the school day. So just thank you, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. So, and I think we could probably put her email address in the chat. Maybe Renee, could you put that in the chat for anyone who's interested in that? Okay, thank you. As you well know, we committed to on-campus learning and outdoor learning. Outdoor learning is not new to St. Anne's. Our preschool kids have been outside a ton, and all of our classes actually go outside for a bit. But with COVID-19, we're going to take advantage of the fact that our campus and our school is set up for outdoor learning. There's so many benefits to outdoor learning. And who would have ever thought that kind of combating the circumstances that COVID-19 or any virus create would be one of them, but they are. And so we're gonna lean into that in a real major way. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Carrie Wilson is, I'm just checking. Carrie Wilson is understandably taking some important time away with family, and where she is not surprisingly out in the middle of woods. So her reception is not good where she is. So, but she is a point of contact for that. And I will tell you that the teachers have been on campus, all grade levels, but your lower school and primary school teachers have been on campus working furiously, both inside and out, to create lots of different spaces for kids to be. So if you have to come to school and you have to wear a mask inside all of the time, having the option to be outside, still be physically distanced, but without a mask is a good thing. Plus, we know what it does for our heart rate. We know what it does for our mind. We know what it does for our emotions. And we are all really, really excited about the expansion of our outdoor learning opportunities. So, all right. And 2, on-campus learning. No slide yet. Hang on just a second. So on-campus learning, I am the point of contact for that. And obviously your teachers are your first point of contact once you're connected with them. And that will be soon. I'll be sending out class lists and class lists, and you're going to get all of the class lists. So you'll get the class lists from every grade level, from preschool through grade 8. I think it's especially important for you to have that information so that you can connect with people. If we have any students on, I think I saw a few students on. I love it when students come to things like this, because it shows me that that they are not only interested, but they're gathering the information so that they know how to, they're more aware, they're more self-aware of what's going on, and they can ask better questions. So I will tell you that students, your student emails, and some of you are signed into them now, can get on Google Meet, and start meeting up with their friends whenever they would like to do that, just like they could in the springtime. So I'm gonna go on a little bit about pods, homerooms, and schedules. This might be where some questions pop up. And so let's see, let me see if I can get through. I'll get through a slide and then I'll see what questions there are, and then we'll go from there. There's no way I'm probably going to answer every question, so I look forward to seeing in the chat box what questions you have. Next slide, please. Okay. And don't forget that this will be recorded so that you can go back and look at it again. So you don't have to write anything down, because you can go back and access it. We'll have it on the website for you to see. All right, this is a slide that shows you about our lower school pods. Now, I didn't put primary school in there. I will say that primary school is preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten, and lower school is grades 1 through 4. That slide actually should say lower school and primary school pods, because obviously I have pre-K, preschool, and K on there. You'll see that they're color-coded, because the yellow where it says preschool and pre-K, that notes that there's a pod. A pod at St. Anne's is a group of classrooms that are in the same area in one of our long hallways. And it'll make sense in just a minute why I'm drawing your attention to that. Kindergarten, first and second, they occupy a pod. And then there's a space, just like there is between pre-K and preschool. There's a space in the hallway, and then there's third and fourth. We're doing our best to keep students in their pods. I'm thinking about contact tracing. I'm thinking about, having related arts teachers will be coming to the classrooms either inside or out. And we want to make sure that we're not doing a lot of crossing over and not a lot of walking through the hallways and going all over the place. So you can see from the color codes there, the yellow pod has those classes. You'll notice in pre-K that we have 3 lead teachers. This is a great thing. That's a new development. So Miss Allie DeFino, we're excited that she's going to be our 3rd lead pre-K teacher. Allie's been with St. Anne's for over 12 years and was an associate for a long time. She is about to be bestowed her master's in early education teaching, which is really exciting. And so she is going to take over, and that will be a half-day class. So she'll have a all half-day class that she leads. And then after that, Allie DeFino also has an incredible background in movement and wellness. And so she will be teaching our PE classes to our lower school students in grades 4 and below. And you'll also see in that same line that she's moved into that position. And so now I'm hiring. And this is a shameless plug if you know of anyone who's interested. I had an interview last night. I have a few more conversations coming up. But you, our families and communities, you guys know what our community's like. So if you have a recommendation, I would love to have it. If you know of someone who's looking, it's an associate position. It's a long-term sub position that will go up through Thanksgiving at the least. And then we'll see after that. And then you also see in there that Jen Kellner is she's the associate teacher in kindergarten. She's our long-term sub in kindergarten for Miss Ashley Hartshorn, who is out on leave right now and might have exciting news soon. So that'd be great. And I think that's it. You see we have 2 sections of second and 2 sections of fourth. Super excited about what's going on here. All right. Before I go off the slide, sorry, Val. Before I go off the slide, the other thing about pods is this. So I mentioned that related arts teachers will be moving to the students so that they're not moving through the hallways up and having to pass in a small area. I also want you to know that we have planned for very specific movement for our children in the pods. This is true in the middle school also. If you're in the preschool and pre-K yellow pod there, and actually, as I think about it, I probably should have color-coded it based on what the walls are in that pod, but I didn't. So they will be using, other than arrival and dismissal, the students and teachers in those pods will only be traveling out and into the building through the doors at the end of the early education primary school pod. So down at the far end where students enter in the morning for arrival, and this year also will dismiss from there, but they will only use that door and no other adults will be using, or students will be using that door. Kindergarten, first and second will be using the doors that are nearest their pod. There's and they will be the only ones using that door. And the same thing is true for third and fourth grade. They'll be using the doors nearest their pod. Again, thinking about contact tracing and trying to limit where we have people walking all over the place. When students have to use the restroom, we'll have one-way traffic in the hallway. We'll have cones set up. And directionals. We don't have those set up now because the YMCA has not finished yet. They finish tomorrow in our building. So next week we'll be setting that up. If students need to use the restroom, they'll be going. We'll be using 50% capacity in the restrooms at a time. We'll have a table out. We have a plan. Teachers already have a plan. Your lower school teachers use a plan all the time for what's the right, not accountability is not the right word, but for managing the flow of students in and out of classrooms. And that's even more true this year. So if you have to wait, if I have to wait, I'll be standing on a spot that says wait here, social distancing. So I think that's it. I think that's it for the pods. A few other things will come up a little bit later. So next slide, please. All right. This is an example schedule. This is not anybody's specific schedule, but this is an example schedule of what the lower school schedule might look like. In this schedule, you'll notice that math, reading, writing is all front loaded and related arts happen in the afternoon. In the middle block, the purple block, you'll see it says thematic, lunch and recess. That could be a flexible time for teachers. If you're in, perhaps if you're in second grade, you might be working on your butterfly project. That is an integrative, a multidisciplinary project. And then you'd also have lunch and recess because you'll notice that's a 90-minute block there. Now, lower school teachers won't be spending an hour necessarily doing each one of these, but I will tell you from just from a purely logistics side of managing people, one of the things I have to be ready for is if a teacher has to be out, either because they're ill, because they have strep throat, or they're quarantined because maybe someone in their family was exposed. Any number of reasons someone has to be out. I need to be able to slide people in and out. So the blocks are lined up this way, but within that hour, the teacher has flexibility to do lots of different things. And again, this is an example of a schedule. It's not an actual schedule, but I wanted to give you an idea of what it could look like. You'll notice that across the top every morning, there's a homeroom block from 8 o'clock to 8:30. This year, drop off for school will be at 7:40. The window is from 7:40 to hopefully a little bit before 8 o'clock so that we can get started at 8 o'clock. You'll notice that chapel is on Wednesday mornings, the same way it was last year. And then you'll also notice in the afternoon, there's a 3 o'clock to 3:15 block for afternoon homeroom. We're bookending those two things. We want to, for lots of different reasons. One is we want to be able to check on kids beginning day and end of day. We just, in the lower school, it gives kids a sense of normalcy and routine. It's what they've done in the past. And that will be a really important, that finding the right balance of normalcy, even a really unique situation of COVID-19 is an important thing for us. It's something we've all been thinking about. We know we have to change a few things, but that normalcy is really important. Trying to think what else. Okay. All right, Renee, if questions come up and they fit, because I'm not actually watching the chat, I have it closed right now. If it's a question that needs to be asked, if you'll moderate that'd be great.
Sure. So we have a question about the example schedule, and will half-day friends still get to participate in related arts?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Yep. All of our, before I say that, I'm going to I have a document that's coming out next week that will have more details, or maybe the same details of what we're talking about today, but it will be a recap kind of what's going on. And one of those details is exactly the answer to the question that you just asked. Our half-day friends will have all of their related arts, before 12:30. So they'll get those in. Yep, good question. Thank you for that. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so that takes us to related arts learning here. Our related arts class at St. Anne's, if you're new to St. Anne's, this has been explained to you. And if you're a veteran, I just wanted to remind us: art, music, Spanish, religion, STEM, library, wellness and movement, which we've in the past called PE. But we're gonna move a little bit and call that wellness and movement. We're gonna have some of the same components to PE that we had, but we also want to look at expanding kind of what that means to be for movement, and also what wellness means. As far as that could look like yoga, it could look like mindfulness along with movement. It could be a lot of things. Could be dance. Could be a lot of things. But there's no particular order of those. I put 4 in each bullet. So I guess 3, one of them's longer in the second bullet. But I want you to know that teachers in preschool through grade 2 will integrate music into their lessons. I know that it's disappointing that singing is not something that we can do, and performance of singing right now is not something we can do. We've not put it out the door. We're just going to put it on the shelf for right now. And teachers in preschool through second are going to integrate. They actually already do that anyways, and they're going to integrate music making into those lessons. We know that music is actually a very effective method for deepening learning, and the same things with rhythms and making music. So they'll be doing that. And then grades 3 through 8. So in this forum, 3 and 4 will attend music class or instrumental with Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan has only taught down to 4th grade, but this year he's going to pick up 5th grade, and they'll be using instruments, not instruments that you blow into, because that's the same issue with singing. But and I don't want to spoil the surprise, but ukuleles might be part of that. So I just wanted to let you know, we are going to look for opportunities for our kids to perform. So while we can't perform on stage and gather in big groups and enjoy that right now as a community, we can have kids perform. They love to record themselves. There's going to be lots of opportunities that we're looking at. Maybe it'll be in chapel. Maybe it'll be on Instagram. Maybe it'll be, for their homeroom. you know, if your child plays an instrument or sings or just loves to make music, be thinking about how you can encourage them to do something that you could share with the community. Your child's teachers are going to do the same. So we're looking, just like everything else, we're trying to look creatively about how we can maintain I'm trying to think what the right words are, how we can capture and preserve the important parts of, like in this case, chorus class or music class, without doing it the exact same way. So, and then the last note is something I mentioned already, related arts teachers will travel to the students. That could be inside, that could be outside, but they'll travel to them so that they're not moving through the building. Yep, go ahead, Renee.
Okay, so we have a question about the lower school bathroom and if students will be outside as previously stated and using a porta potty.
So good question. So I would remind us that all of our, in the preschool and pre-K pod, every room has a bathroom in it. So those kids will just use that one. In 1st through 4th inside the building, we have a girls and boys bathroom, and we'll be, as I said, monitoring, but we'll have a system in place. But actually your teachers will, from the hallway, they will monitor some of that. And kids are amazing. They catch on to routines and the responsibility that they have in being able to go do those things. We will monitor those, so to make sure that social distancing in place. Outside, if you're, depending on the learning space you're in, so the learning spaces that are off the back, I'm like doing this like you guys can see here. That doesn't make any sense. The ones that the learning spaces, the outdoor learning spaces that are near the outdoor chapel that kind of back up to the lower school playground, those aren't so far away that the students can't come back to the building, and teachers moving back. We may still, I think the plan is still, we're debating about numbers of porta potties. I know that porta potties right now aren't the best idea, right? Or the ideal solution. But I will tell you that we are probably going to start with a few on campus, one out on the drive where there are learning spaces, outdoor learning spaces, and one that is near the outdoor classroom. Because the last thing, I've been outside with middle schoolers who didn't have in outdoor learning circumstances, who couldn't get to the restroom fast enough, and they carried that for years afterwards. So I want to make sure that we have an option for our kids to use, but know that our teachers also do a really good job of planning for those kinds of things too. So, and cleaning of porta potties, they gotta be clean enough for me to go in, and that standard's pretty high. Mr. Davis, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if that is the route that we go, we will make sure that they are cleaned in the same way that we are doing anything that we're taking care of inside. Okay, so we know that if that's the way that we need to go, just to make sure that our kids can be able to use the restroom, we will make sure that they are cleaned impeccably.
Right, and yeah, and don't picture what you see at the fair or something like that. Like a porta potty is a porta potty, but we're thinking about our younger friends and what they would need and how we would keep them keep it so that they can use it safely, cleanly, with hygiene, and navigate that. We don't want to make that worse than it could be. So
can I just add something, Jill, too?
Yeah, Mr. Getty, go ahead.
And Carrie, Carrie's not on here, but in talking with Carrie about options for the long term, there are some options that could be kind of embedded into the actual spaces, composting toilets, vault toilets, which are used in state parks, that are, still require cleaning, regular cleaning and whatnot, but certainly aren't a porta potty. So I think in the long term, those are, our use of the outdoor space obviously is not going to be limited to just this fall or this year. So right. Those are the things that we're looking into the long term.
Right. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I would also say that too, that like there is a lot, we spend a lot of time, we have always spent a lot of time outside. So we're planning for the probably the most serious requirement, and then in the short term to make sure that we have that covered, and then we're going on with other plans. So thank you for that question. Okay.
Okay, next question is, will the 2 associate teachers be shared amongst the 3 pre-K classrooms?
Yep. So that's a good question. Yep. So that is the only place that the 2 associates will be shared in the pre-K classes. Those classes are small for obvious reasons. When you have our smallest friends, keeping them 6 feet apart is a little bit, I mean, that could be a little bit more difficult, and actually probably not going to be able to keep them apart all the time, which is one of the reasons why we're going to have masks on and practice a lot of hand hygiene. Although we have things that we're putting in place to try to help that, but those 2 associates will be shared. And so the total number of people that they will be with, I mean, we'll limit that. 1 person will be with 2 and 1 person will be with 2. We won't have 1 person be in all 3. So we're still going to limit that in as much as we can, but the 2 classes about as big as what another class would be. So.
Okay, next question is, will it be cumbersome to travel the art and STEM electives to the classes though? Isn't it a lot of materials and lab equipment?
Right. So that's a great question. So this is a place where we have to reimagine a bit. Now, I will say that in STEM, kids have already spent a lot of time outside, but I do know that Miss Wilson is planning on not spending time in the lab. We know being outside is a really good place for us to be with COVID-19. So she has adjusted her lessons such that she can take care of that. And, you know, when you make as most people know, anytime you plan something, you look at it from 10,000 feet for the whole year, and then you start to come down. And so as we think about what we're going to do in the first 2 to 4 to 8 weeks, that's her plan. And then to be outside, and then we may shift from there. We'll see what we can do. We also have the outdoor classroom that she could move to, but there's an awful lot of stuff. All of our teachers will have wagons so that they can take what they need. So we're trying to mitigate those challenges that would happen by taking those couple different kinds of steps. And as far as art is concerned, we're thinking about that differently too. Many things we're going to even integrate more into the classroom than we have done in the past. And so it could be, if we tried to do STEM and art exactly the same way we've done in the past, it could be a problem. But just like anything else, we're reimagining those for the circumstances and the setting that we have. So I'm looking forward to the positives that come out of it. Anytime you have a chance to change, you have a chance to kind of figure out how can I do it better. So really good. Right. Any other questions about related arts before? Because I might save the general questions to the end. Any other related arts questions, Renee?
Not about the related arts.
Okay. So let's see what the next slide is. Valerie, please. Okay, so Renee, you'll have to tell me, do I want to answer questions, or do I want to do as general questions, or do you want me to do arrival dismissal first?
I would go ahead and go through arrival and dismissal, and then we can finish up with the rest of the questions.
Okay, great. So, and remember, I'm going to send out a document that has more information. So please don't feel like you have to scratch all this down at the same time. And we are doing a practice of arrival and dismissal next week with teachers. So even after I tell you what we're going to do, it could shift a little bit because we need to test it and practice it. Arrival for you guys might not look a whole lot different, other than you got to do your pre-screening in the morning. And when you come to school, I need the caregiver driver to roll down the window so that we can take temperatures on the forehead with a thermoscan thermometer. That is the part that's going to look different, other than maybe your student's going to enter a different door. So our lower school students, if you're grades 1 through 4, you're going to enter through the green lower school doors. Remember, we're taking temperatures, so the flow of students is going to be slowed down automatically because we're not just flying out of the car. So maintaining physical distancing is in the way my mind is thinking this is going to work, not going to be an issue. They'll do some hand sanitizing before they go in the door, and they'll go straight down to their classrooms. In the past, they've gathered in the dining room, but of course we can't do that safely now. And yeah, I mean, not as safe as we'd like to do it, So the students will be going to their classroom. So you're going to drop off at 7:40. They'll go to their classroom. They'll travel down one-way traffic in the hallway. They may drop off in their cubbies, but they'll go into their classroom and be there from 7:40, any time from 7:40 to 8 o'clock. We're encouraging you to have your student have a independent reading book or something to do. Your teachers will tell you more about that, so that they have time, because they're going to go into their classroom and go to their personal space. So, and they'll have their masks on, of course. So, and then for the primary school early education folks, so for pre-K, preschool, pre-K, and K, you'll use the same drive that you've used before. If you're new to the school, that driveway is just past the red doors, the circle in front of the red doors. You'll turn right, go down, and I'll actually have a map for you. I actually drew a map, couldn't get it posted yesterday, and decided to be consistent and not post it here today. But I will have one in the materials that I send out to you, so it'll be clear where you're traveling. You're going to go down again. You're going to drop your child off, hopefully while you're in line. Not when you're driving any amount of speed, but we might, as we lift kids out, you can help us, as you always have in the past, to get them unhooked. You're going to have, what I will tell you is that a teacher from your classroom will be outside to receive your child. So you'll actually see 4 teachers, or 3 teachers, at least 3 teachers from preschool, pre-K, and K outside, and they will be coming to the car that has their children in it, so that we maintain that cohort continuity. So they'll come, pop your child out, and then they'll walk them into class in the next one. You'll get car tags, and your car tag will be color coded for your grade level, and then you'll drive away. So again, we'll take the thermo scan, and then we'll pop them out. We'll have their mask on, and we'll go. And class will start. They'll go in, and they'll go into their classrooms, and we'll start our day. It will become normal very quickly. Dismissal will maybe look a little bit different to you, because we won't have kids gathered outside. If you've ever stood outside and looked in the windows, you saw we had kids gathered in the lower school lobby. We're not going to do that. Kids will be dismissed from their classroom. So inside, dismissal will look very different. We're going to dismiss from the classrooms. You'll remember there's a 15-minute block at the end of the day for everyone to get ready, and be able to do that, and not all have to be out in the hallway at the same time, because again, we don't want to gather large groups in a small area. And we'll have a name caller with a walkie-talkie, just like before. They'll call into the building. We'll use the intercom, and kids will come out in a metered way. If your child rides the St. Anne's transportation, bus or vans, there will be someone who goes down to collect your child about around 3:10 from the classroom, and gather them and bring them out to the bus so that they can be seated safely. A note on transportation: if you're wondering, even if your child doesn't ride transportation, we're about 50% in our vehicles because of social distancing. Remember, siblings can sit next to each other because they're their own little family cohort. But that is something that we've done this year to navigate the COVID issues and trying to maintain physical distance in the vehicles. And of course, they'll have their masks on. So students will come out too. So grades 1 through 4, students will come out. They'll walk out the lower school doors, and they will come get in the vehicle with you. So really, it's not going to look super different. Early education / primary pod is going to look very different, because we're going to ask you to drive down to where you had arrival. We're going to use the driveway there for pickup. So again, so that those kids are only entering and exiting out of the same doorway. And so again, you'll have a teacher from your pod that's helping your child get into the car, and so that we're not risking cross contamination there. And then you'll drive out and join the car line. What it does mean, because that is a bit different, is that I'm going to ask for our patience. And I would say you and your friends keep reminding each other of the need for patience for Carline, especially at the beginning of the school year. Carline takes a little bit longer for us to get our routines down anyways, both at arrival and dismissal, but especially dismissal. And this year, even so. There is one major change for everybody with dismissal. And it is this. It's not actually that major. It's that in the afternoon, the bus and van riders are going to depart. They're going to depart first. So I'm actually going to stage the vans and the bus in the car line circle in front of the red doors. So that means that parent vehicles cannot be there. So whereas the first vehicle, if you're I used to be that person in a car line that I wanted to be first so I could get out and go run my errands. So if you were like me and you wanted to be first now will be at the crosswalk where the person used to stand. It's one of the entrances to the parking lot. It's actually the second entrance on the circle to the parking lot. That will be where the first parent car will start and stage right there for car line. That's like the biggest major difference for you all, is that's where that car will be, because I want to leave the car line circle free for the transportation, and then they'll get out. And the reason for that is because I need to use the early education driveway. So the only other thing I wanted to say about this, and then I'll answer some questions, and I've gone longer than I normally would but you've asked some really good questions, is I'm going to ask for your help with early departures. And early departure doesn't mean my half-day friends. My half-day friends will depart at 12:30 from the early education primary school pod driveway. Early departure is like leaving early during the day. Used to be for dentist appointments, used to be for, maybe for convenience sometimes, and late arrivals for the same thing. What I'm going to ask is, I know these things happen and we have to do them, but given the complexity of this year with COVID-19 and the fact that we're going to have kids outdoors in many spaces, one, I would ask, if let's try to limit it as much as we can. And two, we are really going to have enhanced communication. You all do a great job already, as do our teachers, with communicating back and forth. But this year calls for even more of that. A last minute call, I need to pick someone up. If it's an emergency, we know that's going to happen. And of course, even if it's not an emergency, we're going to accommodate. But I just want to be upfront and telling you that might be harder this year because of where people are on the campus and when they are. So probably not an issue for my friends who will be taking naps in the afternoon. And you might find me there sometimes, but for everybody else, just something to think about. And I appreciate you taking that into consideration. Okay. All right. So next slide tells us that it is time for general questions. All right, Renee, I'm ready.
Okay. So the next question is about our student to teacher ratios in kindergarten and grade one.
They're about the same. They're about 1 to 11 right now. 1 to 10, 1 to 11. Now, if that ratio changes a little bit, if we have off-campus learners, like if we have distance learners, then it goes down to maybe 1 to 8, 1 to 7. Teachers will still be involved with those campus, but part of that plan is that teachers are coordinating with the distance learning coordinators. So, but questions about that and details about that are the ones that you should direct to Amy Shepard, ashepard@stannsschool.org. Good question though, thank you. And that's our numbers right now. I will tell you that every day we get new kids in. It's really exciting. We're not going to exceed the ratios that we can safely in our rooms. So no worries there, but it's really exciting that people want to be part of St. Anne's and what we're doing. So, and you all are part of that. So thank you. Go ahead, Renee.
Okay, the next question is about the possibility of relaxing the uniform code even further and allowing athletic pants.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I will, because you've asked me. I actually said that the other day. I said, I think it's just like anything else that we're doing. We might find in the first week that we need to change. We need to relax our uniform code. We need to tighten up I don't know, we're pretty tight right now, but maybe we'll find out we need to tighten up, people moving in one-way direction in the hallway. I don't think we will, but we might. I think that we're going to have to look at those things week by week and reevaluate what it is that we need to do. We're trying to find a balance. You know, we made that decision over a month ago, not knowing what would go on. So I think that I will just say that we're going to look at it, because what we want to do is make sure that what we have on doesn't get in the way of our learning. Whether that's having too strict of a dress code or having too loose of a dress code. I will tell you that, like, athletic shorts can worry me sometimes when, I don't know why my alarm's going off. Athletic shorts sometimes can get ripped when they're out there. And honestly, I would say pants are probably the best thing if it's not too hot to put your child in, just because we are outside. But it was a good question, and just know that we're going to be reevaluating things each week as we go to make sure that what we're doing is making learning easy on campus.
So the next question is just to confirm that class list will go out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Correct.
probably tomorrow. I'm going to wait as long as I possibly can, because I want to include as many people as I can. If you've ever joined a school, I joined a school, and like my name got missed off a list, and I want to be as inclusive in that list as I can. So it'll likely be Friday evening that it goes out. And then I would also say that there are likely to be additions. There could even be subtractions. I'm hoping not, but every family's making the very best decision that they can for their kids. So class lists will be coming out, and then your teachers subsequently will be contacting you. I want you to know that we can't do orientation and back to school night in the same ways that we've done before, because we can't gather in big groups. So your homeroom teachers have been planning now for several weeks for kind of homeroom, meet the teacher orientation opportunities for you before school starts. And that means different things in different grade levels. So that's my hook for you to try to, and to get you excited about this. And I don't want to ruin their surprises, but they'll be in contact with you subsequently following the class list coming out. So,
Okay, what is the thought or the plan about wearing masks during recess?
yeah, I mean, outside right now, we're evaluating and reevaluating all the time. And maybe, I don't know, Mr. Davis, do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to just go ahead and keep on my roll?
I'm happy to speak to it. I think that the thing that's important is, while our kids are in masks, whether they're inside or outside, we know that they're at their safest. If they're outside and they are, definitely more than 6 feet, then the mask can come down. Our faculty is going to be paying careful attention to what is the nature of the group, what are they doing. I think that's what we've got to pay attention to. We know from everything that we've read that the safest is outside and in a mask and socially distant. So we are going to be paying attention to, what are our kids doing outside? Are they actively engaged? Are they socially distant? So, and as was mentioned earlier, I mean, of course, I think there's some challenge to it, just because kids are kids, and so we have to make sure that the expectations that we are putting out for them are going to be reinforced, just as any other rules and regulations that we expect our children to follow.
Right. And I would just, may I add to that? Adding, did you want to? No, I will just add to that too. There's things that you can do at home, and maybe you're already doing them. I don't want to presume that you're not. There are things that you can do to help, like, you can help, get your child used to wearing the masks. I know that you're already doing that, but sometimes it's good to have them up and trying to do things in your home environment. I know you put them on them when they leave to go somewhere, but I would try at home, start doing things, having them do things, and you can make it fun, play a game, I know, my kids still thought it was fun to do chores when they were in elementary school and lower school, and they didn't when they got older, but like, have them kind of getting used to what that feels like, talk with them about it. Maybe you've already done this. Talk with them about the difference between when they have their mask on, what do someone's eyes look like versus when when you're not smiling? Like, what do the eyes look like? What do you look at? You know, when someone has a mask on, you should look right at their eyes. There's things that you can do. If you have older kids and they love to game, I saw something the other day that said, if you want to practice mask wearing, actually, I just read it last night. If you want them to practice mask wearing, like, say, hey, if you want to play your video games for the next 30 minutes, you got to wear your mask while you do it. And just kind of condition them to wearing it. That's something that would be really helpful, because I think that being outside and not having a mask on will allow them to have a mask break. We have to do that. But I would also say that I know that there's families who want their children to wear masks all the time, and that's equally as good a plan. So in any case, I would just put that out there. Yeah, Renee?
The next question is also about recess, and if we would allow more than one homeroom at a time out on the playground.
Yeah, so I will just say that I'm redefining playground as being our entire campus, first of all, because we have a beautiful campus and there's lots of time, lots of places to play, and teachers are talking. They've been meeting weekly with each other in their pods and groups to decide where they're going to do these things. At first, I'm going to say that we are going to stay separate. Our homerooms are going to stay separate. And I know that decision puts kids it isolates small groups of kids. But honestly, that right now is our safest plan. I won't say that would never change. I might say that it could never change. It really depends on what's going on in the public with our numbers and that kind of stuff. So for right now, we're going to stay separate. Now, having said that, we have a big campus. So, you know, kids might be able to be in the same areas. It's not ideal. But for right now, we're going to keep them separate for recess. And know that every homeroom class has their own recess equipment. We won't be sharing equipment in any grade level from preschool through grade 8. They'll have their own recess equipment that they'll be using. And let's see, you know, we'll be outside a lot. And we'll be taking breaks quite a lot. So those are good things. Okay, Renee.
Okay, the next question is about for families that have students in different divisions. So they might have a lower school student and a middle school student. Will they make 2 stops to do the temperature checks in the morning?
Yeah, good question. No, I don't think so. Remember, I haven't practiced this yet. I don't think so. I think we'll take temperature right there on one another. And if you have a middle schooler and a lower schooler, when they get out of the car, they will just go in different directions to go through their door, because middle school is going to enter through the middle school door. That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that. I love that you guys are willing to ask all these questions, because now I'm making a note.
And then the next question is from a family that has a lower school and a primary school. So they would have 2 separate checks, correct?
They would. For primary school, you're going to have to go around the corner to get checked down there. And then we'll go. One thing I didn't mention is that if you had, or maybe I did, but I want to say it again, you will have checked in the morning. You'll get checked when you come to school. We all know that kids actually can get sick between leaving home and coming to school. But if we had an elevated temperature, we would send you back around to check with the nurse again, and we'd do an oral thermometer check, which is it's just a second type of check to see. Because there's other things that can affect maybe the person. If I'm doing the temperature checks, maybe I wasn't within the right frame there. But yeah, we'd have 2. Something about dismissal, I wanted to ask one more time about patience. If you have a middle schooler and a lower schooler and a primary schooler, you're going to be picking your child up in 3 places. And if you just have because you're going to have to kind of like the car line is going to snake along the circle. And then if you have a primary school person, you'll take yourself down the primary school driveway and come back. I'll have somebody there directing traffic. And I do know that it means it's going to take longer. And so I'm going to ask for your patience again. And I'm going to ask you to remind each other to be patient. Maybe put the Calm app on your phone so that when you're in car line, you can practice the Calm app because especially at first, I think it could take a little bit of time. And again, it's one of those things that we'll reevaluate. Go ahead, Renee.
Okay, it looks like this is our last question about library and if the students will be traveling to the library this year.
Okay. Got it, Ms. Shepherd?
For library class, I'm going to be going to the students' classrooms, but actually I'm really excited because I have an outdoor space for library that I love, which is really beautiful. So I'm looking forward to having our students there. So.
Do you want to speak to library books, checking out?
Yep. So I'm in the process of setting up a library account for each of our students, which is new. So the idea is that students and parents can go on together in the evenings or the days leading up to library class and make your book selections and reserve them. And then I will fill those orders during library class. When the books are returned, I'm going to follow the same procedures that the public libraries are following. So the books will come in. I'm going to have them sit for 72 hours. Then the books will be cleaned and reshelved.
Yep. We're excited about that. We're really excited about that. Yeah. And she'll have some help up there helping her do it too. So, yeah. All right, folks. Well, I thank you for your questions. Please, please, please keep asking questions. I was joking the other day. I said this on the middle school town hall yesterday. I'm a pretty detail-oriented, meticulous person, sometimes to everyone else's demise. It can be annoying. But I have to say, this is a lot of detail even for me. And so your questions and the things that you ask about are 150% helpful. So please do read the things that we send you. There's an addendum that will be coming out to the reopening plan soon. Makes sense because as things evolve, we have things that we change or not change, but add to, or maybe change depending on what the leading science says and what we need to do in the state from the Department of Health. So please do read that. That's also always available on our website on the COVID-19 resources page. Please do keep up with if you can, keep up with your email. I know that can be hard. We're trying not to overflow your inboxes, but we are still trying to share as much information as we can. But please do keep asking your questions. Really, really helpful to us. All right. So happy Thursday. And Mr. Davis, you want to say something?
I wanted to add one other thing. So
sure.
As I mentioned this yesterday. I want to mention it. So as far as testing goes, the state of Delaware, Newcastle County, has agreed to pay for tests for all of our students. And so one of the things that you're going to be getting shortly, I would imagine tomorrow, is more information about what is involved in that testing, where you can go and when. The way it looks for us is that Middletown High School is going to be the site. It looks like it is going to be on Monday the 24th from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The results would be back to you via email in, I believe, 2 days. So while we haven't mandated that everyone has to, I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend it. All of our faculty and staff will be getting tested, and it's just once again about keeping our entire community as safe as we can. So there will be information that will be coming to you within the next day about testing for your child or children.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. You see the question there, Mr. Davis?
Yes, that was a good question. Would the testing be available to Maryland residents? Yes, all of our students, whether you were in Maryland or PA, yes, you would be able to take the test.
Yep.
Okay.
That's great news. Yeah, that's great news. Thank you for that, Mr. Davis. All right, everybody. It's been great to have you here. Remember, if you have a friend who wasn't here and they need it, the recording will be posted to the website. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to welcoming your kids back, either on campus or online. Again, if you have questions, if you're uncomfortable or not on campus and you have questions and you want to talk to Amy Shepherd, it's ashepard@stann's.com. Happy Thursday, everybody. And we'll see you soon. I love saying that. Take care.